Welcome back to the ZBrush Podcast. I want to thank you all for tuning into ZBrushLIVE.com and the ZBrush Podcast wherever you're listening. We want to take just a quick moment to talk about ZBrush subscription pricing. And if you follow the link that we have provided in the description, you'll see that we do have a 1-month price for ZBrush, which is $39.95 a month, or the 6-month pricing, which is $179.95 a month, or the perpetual license, which is $8.95, and that currently is a one-time cost that never expires. So we assume most of you that listen to the podcast already own ZBrush, but if you have friends or people that are interested in getting into digital sculpting or ZBrush, all of this information can be found by following this link. And for all of you ZBrush Podcast listeners, we would greatly appreciate any reviews, comments, or feedback wherever you're watching these episodes or checking out our shows. Also, of course, likes and subscriptions would be greatly appreciated, and we already appreciate all of you that have already done so. If you have been tuning into our content on ZBrushLIVE.com, we have a very special, unique tool for you using Discord. So in the description of this episode, you'll see a sign-up link, which you can sign up, and you can join the conversation with all the ZBrushers out there that are using Discord. And it's a great way to just communicate and connect with other artists and creative people like yourselves. So we thank all of you ZBrushers out there for your continued support. That covers all of our news updates. This episode is with our guest, Shane Olson. He is a regular ZBrush live streamer. He's become a very well-known instructor and educator on his website, 3dcharacterworkshop.com. He's an incredibly talented artist. He's known most famously, if you check out his site, for his work on Overwatch and Disney Infinity. And there's so many great ZBrushers out there learning incredible skills through his trainings and through his education. So this episode we loved. We finally had a chance to sit down with Shane, who we get to see all the time on ZBrushLIVE.com. But being able to talk with him and learn more about his history is truly inspiring. And there's so much knowledge to be gained from Shane. You absolutely do not want to miss this episode. So without any further delay, we give you Shane Olson. Thanks for coming, man. Honestly, this is a true pleasure. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. You've been on our ZBrush Live community, and I had to tell you, of all of the streamers, you've got, from what I watch, is one of the greatest interactions with the community and the people. It seems like you have a great following.
It's a lot of fun. I've been having a ton of fun with it. Yeah. I think I'm on my 97th episode.
You've been cruising through
almost 100 episodes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're all catching up to Drust with the hashtag ZBrush.
I don't know about that. But
he moves pretty quick, but
yeah.
I think at the pace that you're going, you might catch up to him.
Yeah, I've slowed down a little bit. I've been doing every other Monday instead of every Monday just to kind of catch my breath on some other things.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to pick it back up again and start going.
So you're as of right now, I wanted to get into your work history because you're a pretty famous guy in the ZBrush community. People know your work, but for those that don't, I guess we should talk a little bit about your work history. I know that you worked at Disney Infinity for a while. Is that how long has it been since you left Disney Infinity?
Oh, geez, I think it's been 4 years. I want to say. I'm horrible with timelines.
I know.
Yeah, my art brain doesn't let me do those things.
It's like time flies when you're like staring at a ZBrush screen and sculpting all day.
So I worked for Disney Interactive for 10 years, and that was my 6th studio.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been doing it for 22 years now.
Wow.
I'm an old guy.
That's amazing, though. The knowledge that you have in your brain, people would pay so much money for.
Yeah. So it's been a fun ride. I've been an animator at times, rigging at times, but mostly my general love is for character modeling. Yeah. And then when ZBrush came along, it's like, oh my goodness, game change. Yeah.
You do have a very, your style sort of fits very well within the sort of animated character world. When you got started before that, is that something you've always done, or?
Yeah, I've always kind of. I remember a time when I was sitting on in my parents' living room, and this old animated short called Wall-E B. It's like one of Pixar's very first shorts ever.
I actually haven't seen that one.
Well,
I'm ashamed.
It's old. It's like their first one, and I saw it on like a newscast or something, and I'm just like, what is that? It looks so amazing because it was traditional 2D animation, but it was 3D. Like the movement and everything was traditional.
Right.
But I'm just like, what is this?
So that came out before, I forget what they called it, the lamp. I know they had.
It was like first. Yeah, it was. So it was like That one came out very, very first. And then it was like the unicycle and the snowman and all of those after that.
Right.
You know, those little shorts until they started making full feature films. So, but when Toy Story 1 came out, that's when I was in school.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me too. A Toy Story. I mean, I feel like every artist has sort of like, it's always a movie or some sort of animated thing that they were just so like encaptured by.
Right.
And it just like a spark went off, and then eventually this industry kind of became something that was feasible.
Right.
It wasn't like some just like magical thing that was, you know, just in theaters and like it was possible, right? But yeah, it's interesting always to hear everybody's like one thing that like was the spark.
Right.
That's great. So then from there, what did you do?
So, well, if going back, I was actually working in the sign industry because I was always told you're not going to make any money as an artist. You know, it's just, you know, starving artists. Everybody's heard that.
My dad would say the same thing.
Right. Yeah. You're never going to make any money.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of opposite.
Yeah. If you play your cards right.
Yeah. So I was in the sign industry because it was as close as possible I could get to actually doing art, but it was, you know, I would do airbrushing and stuff like that. And
so it's like advertisements, things like that.
Yeah, vinyl lettering. And I saw this ad in the newspaper for a game tester, and I'm just like, what? You can test games? Because I've always been a gamer, you know. And I'm just like, I'm gonna go check this out. Maybe I can make some side money and play games, and you know. But I went down there, and it was this local company called Sculptured Software, and they do ports of Mortal Kombat to consoles and things like that. So, but it turned out, you know, game tester job is not all the glory that it sounds like it is.
It's really unfortunate.
Playing a broken game for like pennies, you know, they don't pay very well at all, and it's temporary. And this was even the night shift, and I'm just like, I'm not going to do that. But on the same list, I saw character artist. Like, character artist, is that a thing? Is that something you can do for a living?
Yeah.
Can I talk to one of them? And they're like, yeah, you know. So they went and got one of the character artists and brought him out, and I'm just like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
You know, this is like some unreachable thing. What is this? And he's like, yeah, and he kind of explained a little bit of what he did, and I'm like, well, how do I learn it? And he gave me the typical, we'll go to school for it. And this was like 1996.
What schools
none,
had programs?
Zero schools.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I got the opportunity to move up to Seattle for a while, and so there was nothing. I'm from Utah. There's nothing in Utah at the time. There was like just trade schools and things, and I saw that the Art Institute of Seattle was offering up a computer animation program. I'm just like, really? They're doing so. I got in there, and I was like the second class through that program.
Oh, wow.
Really
So it's very new.
Super guinea pig.
Yeah.
And so that's when Toy Story 1 just came out. So I was pretty excited about that. And then I went through that whole program. And then when I was done, I got my first job back in Utah at a place called Sapphire.
Okay.
And Sapphire, my first game I ever made was Xena Warrior Fighting Princess.
Oh, I so watched that show. Oh, man. I watched Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Wow, they made a game for that.
Nintendo 64.
What? How did I miss that?
It wasn't that great. But it was during a time when everybody on the team wore all the hats. So everybody was assigned a character. And what that meant was you modeled the character, you textured the character, you rigged the character, you animated the character, you built the arena that they fight in, and you designed all their moves and the whole thing. We even motion captured some of the characters back then too.
Wow.
And so
was this a full 3D or was this side scroller?
No, full 3D.
Wow.
Full 3D. Yeah, I mean, you look at it now and you're just like, oh, I can see how you can do that.
They're like the character cap was probably like 1,000 tries. Like
it was. I used a program called Nendo to model it, which is it's like, you know how Sculptress is to ZBrush as Nendo is to Mirai.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mirai was the big one. We modeled in that, and and then the next one I worked on like Rogue Spear. That was another port, and then that studio kind of ran into financial troubles a little bit, so I had to move to a new studio, and I actually I went to a studio called Acclaim. You guys know who Acclaim is. Sculptured Software that I talked to the character artist from had gotten purchased by Acclaim.
Okay.
And so I ended up working at that place.
Wow.
As an animator and a character artist. But it's like, hey, I made it, guys.
Yeah,
It's
right.
weird. It was a weird.
How did
thing.
that feel? Was that?
It was interesting because now the building was older. They didn't change anything about it. It was still like
the same that it always
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was cool. It's like, hey, I did what I said I was going to
I
do.
feel like you made it. Like that's the thing.
Right.
But then once I feel like for everybody has that moment, and then you get there and you go, wait a minute.
Yeah, it wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. I was working on HBO Boxing, which never came out.
Okay.
But I was responsible for finding the likeness of all these boxers' faces, and all their looks, their body, and all that. And that was a lot of fun. I got to go out to Vegas and watch some boxing fights.
So you're actually capturing
like
image reference.
Yeah.
This. That's pretty interesting because that's really pre like Google search. Like you're not going to be able to use like internet's pretty young at that age, right? So you're not going to be able to digitally like reference all those things.
Right.
That's interesting in itself to think like how much we use tools now and what you'd have to do then to capture reference.
Right. And this was around when I think ZBrush was just an idea at the time, probably around that
99.
time. Yeah. And then, so that would have been 99 because I started in 97.
Okay.
And I worked for Sapphire for a couple of years, went to Acclaim, and then they shut that studio down. Acclaim did. And then I went to a studio called Glyphics, and I worked on Advent Rising, which was an Xbox title.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I totally remember
Really?
that. I was like, at the time I was anti-Xbox for some reason. I was all about PlayStation. But I remember those titles coming out, and like Halo was the one that jumped me over to Xbox eventually.
Yeah. So Advent Rising was, if you've ever played Mass Effect, it was kind of the predecessor to Mass Effect in a way. It was just kind of a similar story. And the Glyphics eventually, most of them ended up at Chair, which is now owned by Epic. That's where my buddy Matt Thorup is, and a whole bunch of the guys that I worked with at Glyphics. And I worked there long enough to finish Advent Rising, and I was a motion capture animator there. And so me and a couple guys built the motion capture system there. And so
that's impressive.
I'm like half the characters in there, like doing all the motion and stuff like that.
That's a pretty awesome credit.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of weight, gained it all back.
Hell yeah. It's like it'd be nice to have that as like a full-time job. Like, because we just sit at our tables and like we sculpt. It's like you don't burn calories doing this, unfortunately. It just doesn't work.
It was fun because we would come up with some really interesting ideas as far as like how to capture the motion, because it was like a space game.
Yeah.
And we were like, there was a hovering vehicle, and it was like, cruising down across the terrain, and it was kind of rocking back and forth. So what we did is we made like a teeter-totter out of a plank, and then
so
put something underneath it.
Raise it up?
And then both of us, there was two of us, and we were like on either side of the ship on the wings. And so we were like, they were totally rocking us back and forth. And
that's a good way
how we
to
got
do
the
it.
motion. And there was one there was an elevator, and we had to come down and come off the elevator.
Yeah.
So we were just like riding it, and there's like 3, 2, 1. And then we walked.
Oh my gosh.
It was fun.
Is so
and it
amazing.
totally worked. It totally worked. Yeah. So after that, I got a job at Incognito, which is at the time they were owned by Sony. They're known for Twisted Metal Black.
Oh yeah.
That's
a gold star.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah. I worked on a tiny bit. I'm not credited in any of it.
Yeah.
At the time I worked on Warhawk.
Oh yeah.
So Warhawk, I was a animator / rigger at Incognito. So I animated a bunch of the soldiers and their in-game animations, and a bunch of cinematics that never happened because they made it into an online game because they ran out of time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I rigged the vehicles in that game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The Warhawk itself and stuff like that. And
quite
that's about the
unique.
time when ZBrush 2 was out, version 2. So
when you're starting just to get into like Z-spheres and actual like the real sculpting stuff is coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when I just remember like like the companies like Weta and stuff picking it up, and
Yep.
it's starting to get.
That was a big part of part of our Oscar, Oprah won an Oscar years ago, and that was a big contributor. That was a big stepping stone. Was when Weta adopted ZBrush as a digital sculpting tool, and that exposed it to everyone. And then it was able to become what it was and used now, where you have every studio is using it.
Right. So that was when the map maker first came out.
Oh yeah.
I think that was. It might have been. Was that 2 or 3? It was almost
3.
like a separate program.
Yeah, ZMapper you're talking about? Yeah, I think it was 3.
Like you would export the maps.
Yes.
It was like finally came to a level where, because it was cool because you could sculpt in there, but how do I get this out?
Right.
And that was the thing that allowed you to get it out.
Right.
So after that is when, let's see. So every single time a studio I would either get laid off or it would shut down, I would try to get on an Avalanche. And Avalanche, it's not the Avalanche in, where is it, Sweden? There's like 2 Avalanche studios.
Sweden, and I forget what the other one is.
And so, the Avalanche studio I worked at was in Utah, Salt Lake City. So I would try to get on every single time, and they just didn't have a seat for me, or my skills weren't high enough, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then finally the planets aligned after Incognito, and I was able to get on their. They made a sister studio called Fall Line.
Okay.
And it was meant to just create Nintendo properties. It's when the Wii was the big thing.
Oh, that was a huge time.
All the rage. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was working at Best Buy those days.
Oh really?
I remember selling Wiis.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I worked on Ultimate Band. It's like this rock band game.
What were you modeling?
The characters.
Okay.
And so I was doing the characters and the motion capture for the cinematics.
Wow.
Again, it's funny because we actually purchased. Well, I shouldn't say. Anyway. Yeah. Same motion capture system was used for that. We were helping model some of the characters, but I was mostly doing the animation, the motion capture, and then I worked on the studios merged back together, and that's when Disney purchased Avalanche.
Okay.
And that's kind of that's the same timeline.
That's how you made your way into Disney and Interactive.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I see.
And so I worked on like Cars and Toy Story, the games.
Yeah.
And it was right after they had done Meet the Robinsons. They were just ending that game, and then I got on right after that on a game that was called Jabberwocky.
Oh, Jabberwocky.
That is
okay.
Jabberwocky. Yeah, it's off the book or the poem, I think.
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
So Jabberwocky, it got canceled by Disney because they didn't know what to do with it, but it was amazing. And where you can see that is Blur Studios did a cinematic for us.
Oh, okay.
Using the character designs, and they built new, higher resolution characters and everything like that.
Yeah.
If you want, you can.
Yeah, pull that up.
I'm
actually kind of curious about that.
Do a search for Jabberwocky Blur Studios, and we can just watch a little sliver of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm
full
very
cinematic,
interested.
But
this is Blur Studios. I mean, this is probably one of their earlier cinematics. I know they've been around for such a long time, but
yeah. So I was character lead on this game while it was still around. This was my first big character gig.
Yeah.
So,
in terms of the resolution compared to what you'd been working, it was just kind of a higher.
Well, this is the cinematic.
This is their higher version, but like the game itself that you worked on,
right?
Was it like similar to what you had been working with before?
It was, yeah. Well, so yeah, I had modeled a character that the head concept artist at the time, his name was Todd Harris. I asked him if he had any concepts that hadn't been modeled yet, because I really wanted to get on Avalanche. He's like, yeah, I got this one. And so I modeled it up, and I finally got the attention of the art director there.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I made my way onto being the character.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I mean, you look at some of the Blur stuff now. This looks like early Blur stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it still looks good, though.
Such a fantastic job. And this was before How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay.
So
interesting.
The premise was sort of similar, but with monsters instead of dragons.
Yeah.
Where this kid befriended this monster, not this one, but the other guy.
He almost resembles Hiccup in a way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like I see with some of like the design choices, you can see maybe some just inspiration maybe coming from that.
Right. I don't know if they, who knows.
I'm sure. I mean, nowadays with art, there's always some infusion of so many things.
There you go. Yeah, those guys. So, yeah, do you even know these guys?
So you're just catching all these guys.
Yeah. Going to save them all.
Do you even know them?
Yeah. So then I got hired on at Disney Interactive, and then they canceled that game, and then the next thing I worked on was Toy Story 3, which a lot of people really, really liked, and we were starting to do it was kind of an experiment, really, in a way, because Disney games, they were just known as they just take the film and basically redo the film, and they want you to play through the film, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, it's like, okay, extension of the film, but other people are like, why don't we take this world and expand it and have fun with it?
That was my feeling always with games that were transitioned from movies, especially like the first Toy Story game. I remember playing on Super Nintendo, and it was exactly the same thing. It was a side scroller, and it was just going through the motions of all the scenes, and like I could see that sort of like thought process in the early stages, but now those games never seem to work. Like if you do the reverse movie from a game, it has trouble. It has trouble as well. Right. There's like a weird thing with the mixture of the two.
Yeah, exactly. It's this weird medium transitional thing. But the designers wanted to explore a little bit, and they're like, they went to the Disney heads, and they're just like, could this be a play box or a toy box, like this play world? We almost called it like Grand Theft Auto for kids, because and it's not, and not to say it's like without the adult stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. But the freedom
if you know how Grand Theft Auto works, it's essentially just a cluster of missions that you can do, and you can do them whenever you want. And there is kind of a timeline that you follow. This mission opens up when you complete this one, that kind of thing. And Disney really liked the idea, but they were afraid to go away from the movie model.
Right, to disconnect it from the story.
So instead they said, let's do both.
Okay.
And put them both into the same game.
Yeah.
So we were essentially this crew that was doing two games in one.
Oh, wow.
We had one crew doing the cinematic style game, and another crew doing the toy box style game, the GTA Lite kind of thing.
Were you guys collaborating it all together?
Oh yeah, kind of same assets and stuff. But still, it was like a lot of work, a lot of overtime and stuff. But it was one of the funnest times I've ever had developing games, because I was over. There was these little things that you could do, like it was like a photo mode. You can go get a camera, and there was these little kind of villagers. They look like Fisher-Price people in the world. And if you went and got them and dressed them a certain way and put them in a certain spot, it would reward you with a little thing. Yeah. And so there was like a list of those that you could go and do. It's like, okay, go collect these guys and put them over here, and you'll get rewarded, and you can check it off. And it's just one of those things,
Sure. And that's probably a very early adaptation of that. Like that tool set exists in a lot of games now. Yeah. But that was probably, maybe that's why you loved it, because you guys were trying something out that was kind of new. Right. And what was cool is, so I was responsible for gathering those assets together, setting up that cinematic camera inside the game world, and then spreading it back out after the thing was done behind the scenes. Yeah. And it was crazy buggy, because I would have to load them in to memory behind the scenes, and then make sure they were where they needed to be, run the thing, run the sound, cue everything, and even some special effects. That's really complex and then system. Let it go. Yeah. And that was but it was fun, because it was like, just Wild West, like you said. It was one of the first. There's always the pioneer stage. I feel like I'm kind of envious of you, because a lot of us now that are coming in, I came to ZBrush around 3.5 was when I got started, and so it's like a little bit later in that process where you're sort of going in and getting a chance to try everything out, and you kind of set the bar in a way. It's like you're getting a chance to do those things and go through the hardest thing, which is figuring stuff out, probably having some failures and learning from those things, and that's knowledge that doesn't transfer very well. It's like a lot of us all would just love to know more about these things, but it's like I think that's so great. So yeah, thank you very much. It was a great time. So the Toy Story 3 was so well received that then it became, now let's go bigger with this. Let's go Disney Infinity with this. Yeah. And that's where that whole idea came from. I see. And so they decided to do it, and in the beginning we're just like, well, how
how are we going to do this? How are we going to get these characters and be able to like share them, and where are we going to make the save all the information from them as you level them up and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just when like Skylanders was just barely coming out, and we started just like, would that work for this? You know, could we actually do toys? And we were game developers. We weren't toy makers, right? And my lead at the time, his name was Christopher Wright. He's a fantastic guy, and he's like, if we're gonna do this, we got to have ZBrush. We just got to do it. We got to learn it. We just got to jump in. Yeah. You know. And,
what version of ZBrush was this? Do you know?
3. It was the end of 3 and the beginning of 4.
Okay. That was a really good time to be starting.
Yeah. And it's like Decimation Master was there. This was, you have to think about it. This was before the Gizmo, before Live Boolean, before Dynamesh, all of that stuff that would really have helped. This was before Keyshot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh yeah.
So we just, and this was when everybody was making monsters with ZBrush, and we're like, we have to make these characters, right? We have to do super duper clean, well designed, appealing characters with something that is inherently lumpy.
Yeah. And at this time, the films, Pixar they were using NURBS.
Yeah.
So even like polygon modeling wasn't a thing in the visual effects side or the animation side, right? So you guys are actually the first ones to really go in and use these tools this way.
Right. And little did we know, but it was, and that's another Wild West moment because none of us knew ZBrush. So we were just like scrambling to learn it as fast as we could. So we were just like, we'd have these moments where it's like, check out this thing I just found. And we'd come over, they'd gather around the desk, and it's like, check this out. Yeah. And it's like, woo, and they're like, that kind of thing. And it was, and then we were all sharing ideas, and let's try it this way. And one of the big things was, since they were toys, we had to figure out a way to get the toys to be to scale, and in the real world. Right. So we had the disc that the characters sat on. Yeah. And that disc had to be exactly precise for every single character down the line. And we just didn't know how to do it. And I don't know how I figured it out. I think I saw Gentle Giant they had a ruler in one of their scenes, a physical ruler in there. I'm like, I wonder if that would work. And I realized that when you do the 3D printing, this was before the 3D printing hub, when it was just
before Scale Master, before
any of that stuff. You're just like, So I just kind of thought about, well, if you come up with a common denominator, because when you export something, it looks at the largest thing in your file and uses that as a bounding box. Right. And so I'm like, well, what if you made a ruler be the tallest thing in the file, and that becomes the known bounding box, and everything you export relative to that will work. Yeah. And it did. Yeah. And it was like,
and that was like a miracle. And
it's funny because I still give away my ruler.
Well, I was going to say, you still use that in your streams. I love it. Your ruler, you got your ruler. It's nice. Yeah. It's such a perfect tool. But for a sculptor, it's like, it's nice to have a physical tool. It's like, that's kind of how you would just do it. It's just, I like that connection instead of just going, I'm going to set these numbers and just kick this thing out at this thing. Right. As a modeler, I like that a lot more. It's more creative.
Yeah, for sure. So with Infinity, I put the disc with the ruler. So when you went to start a character, it's like, here's the thing, don't touch it. Yep. Just build
within that space.
Yeah, build to that, and you're good.
That's so great.
As long as you don't scale the ruler, you're good to go.
So when you're, I guess it's interesting that you spent a lot of time with animation, motion capture, building game characters. I'm assuming using other tools and other ways of modeling. Yep. And you're getting here now where you're actually being introduced to doing more stuff with ZBrush. Right. So it's when you get to this point, is this kind of where you started focusing all your efforts on character creation? And
yeah. So I mean, throughout my whole career, I'd always been like, when I'd go home at night, I didn't animate in my spare time. I didn't rig in my spare time. I modeled characters. Okay. And I would do a lot of freelance work. Okay. And all of the freelance work was modeling characters. And like when I applied at Acclaim, I applied for both an animator and a modeler, and they were actually like, "Yeah, you're a better modeler than an animator."
Oh, okay.
I'm like, "All right, I'll take it." You know,
all that extra time paid off.
Yeah. And so, and that's kind of where it started to take off, and it's just I like getting lost in it. You know, I love the challenge of trying to make just an amazing concept that I'm in love with. I love the challenge of making that into 3D.
Yeah.
You know, just going, okay, what's this going to look like?
Yeah.
And just like, could I nail that? You know, and when it happens and when it clicks, it's just like, it fills my art cup.
Right. And that's like a constantly fulfilling thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you keep getting presented with new challenges, new characters that you can
Right.
always kind of fulfill that desire.
Right.
Right. And style, the kinds of work that you do is, I think, deceivingly difficult to actually land. Like, a lot of people love stylized work, right? And I'm sure you deal with this in the stream, but it's like, to do a monster creature and getting to the texturing stuff, it's almost, and from what I see, is a little bit easier to make stuff really dirty and crazy, but silhouette and the forms are tough, right?
There's nothing to hide.
Right.
It's like what the Hulk says. It's like you're an exposed nerve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
It is. It is. Everything is out there, and you can see it all.
Yeah.
So, and there's tips and techniques to it, but everybody, you know, on the surface, it looks like, oh, you just simplify a character, and that's stylized. And it's the farthest thing from the truth.
It, right?
Yeah, it's the farthest from the truth. There's so much that goes into it, and like silhouette and flow, and just even how the light falls across the surface.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention to.
And I do know, I mean, because we've had many presentations from Zach Petrock and the Disney animation team, and Disney has a very specific character architecture, right? The three heads, the proportions, the silhouette and curvature, especially, and all these angles. There's sort of like a rule book that you have to follow.
Right.
I'm just wondering, for you guys in the games world, especially with going to like Disney Infinity, did you have were you kind of able to develop a like sort of a new playbook for this sort of style?
So we had to. We were. I want to say, or I don't want to say forced to, but we were almost forced to, because there was a meeting with the Avalanche heads and John Lasseter.
Okay.
When Toy Story was done and they were pitching this idea to them, they had this meeting, and my art director was telling me that in this meeting they're like, we want to combine all these things and you know, and have them exist in the same world, and they can play with each other and everything. And it's like, John Lasseter was like, this is going to be a licensing nightmare. You know, there's no way we could get like Marvel to buy into this, or Star Wars to buy into this. And I almost picture it happening like he stood up and started walking out of the room, and then he goes, unless, you know, and he's like, unless these are toys, and all of the toys had a unique style, and you push that style into all of these characters. And so they looked like they were all part of the same world, and since they were toys, they weren't the actual thing. It's not, you know, Johnny Depp's pirate character. It's not.
It's not a perfect likeness of him, right?
It's a toy of him. And so that way, then they would all buy in, and they did. I don't know what kind of strings they were able to pull and stuff like that. Because there were still some rules we had to follow. Yeah. You know, but yeah, we kind of got away with some crazy stuff.
I'm glad you did. Yeah. Because honestly, and a lot of people are, even though, you know, that universe has since sort of passed, it's still, to me, and I think a lot of people agree, it's one of the coolest like depictions and stylizations that I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you so much.
I truly mean that. It's like this style of work, and I think that's why you probably have so many followers and people that want to figure this stuff out, because it's unique in some way, shape, or form.
And, absolutely. Yeah. It took a small army to come up with this look. And it was really fun, again, Wild West with the look of the thing, because we were all pitching in. What does it mean? What does it mean? And then the concept artist, his name's John Diesta, he really kind of harnessed, almost like director style, directed and kind of pulled in all of these pieces and parts and said, okay, this is what it's going to look like. And, so he kind of directed the look and feel of the whole thing.
Amazing. It does take a visionary to, I mean, it sounds like you guys are all contributing to this pot. to kind of figure those parts and then solidify. We agree that this is going to be it.
Yeah. And it also evolved across the three. Disney Infinity 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
It evolved. Like you see the characters in the first one, and then you look at the ones in the third one, and they just they're so much better in the third one. Plus we, like I said, we were game developers, not toy developers.
Yeah.
So that was a good and bad thing, because we didn't know what we didn't know. So we just pushed it to what we wanted to have on our shelves. Yeah. It's like, this is the toy I want.
Yeah.
And not caring what manufacturing it would take to make that thing.
And that was able to last for a while.
Right. So we would get you can click on some of those.
Yeah, like in terms of like generation, I see you got 3.0s.
Right. So yeah, this would be from Disney Infinity 3.0. So that's something you could let play in the background if you want. You can actually. And so we really, with Marvel and Star Wars, we had to step it up because we had to, there you go, you can see that texture.
Yes.
See how it's soft on the tops of those spheres, and it comes in on the bottom. So we had to step up our process, and we had to kind of figure out how to better manufacture those characters. Like if you look at Anakin there, that's one of the newer. Yeah, that's a 3.
I love this figure too.
That might be 2.0.
This is 3.
Is it 3? That's right. I can't remember.
You can't keep track. You guys probably did. I mean, there's so many characters in those universes.
Some more texture work in the
I love that so much.
And there are some. It was really interesting to see the process, the toy making process, and the keying, because we had a few companies that were between us and the toy manufacturers where they would take it and cut it up and key it and make it manufacturable. Yeah. And just to kind of see that entire process was really fun and unique. Yeah. So Matt Thorpe posed him, and I modeled him. And so Matt came up with that cool
sort of
twisty
spirally effect to give it that sort of like energetic, like flaring lightsaber effect.
Right.
That's very cool.
It was fun. So I have a story on this guy. So this was the episode 7, right? Yeah. So this was a big deal, and it was super secretive. They didn't want anybody to know what anything looked like, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't want to give us any assets to do this with either. So it's like, how are we going to make this game with no asset, no reference? And so they made a deal where it's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set up this special room, and we're going to fill it with cameras so we can see what you're doing in there, and that you cannot bring cell phones in there. Mm-hmm. And we are only going to bring all the reference in on a hard drive, and we're just going to plug it into a laptop and then take it back out and take it back and put it in a safe, right?
Oh, wow.
And they literally, like, one guy could bring up the hard drive. It's like lock and key.
That is so wild.
And we could not take pictures. We couldn't do anything with that because of fear of getting it out, Yeah. So the only thing we could do is draw it. So we could look at the reference and sketch. Yeah. So I modeled this guy based on a sketch that I did based off of the reference that we got.
I mean, I understand because that was such a big deal.
Right. It was a huge deal.
That is wild to just think that that's what you had to model that off of. And this is what the final product was from that?
Yeah.
I wonder if that actually contributes in some way. Maybe it helps because then you just can only rough in a few things.
Right.
So you don't even see the details. Mm-hmm. Like Kylo's got all those crazy like zigzags in the mask, and like you can just strip it down into a few simple shapes.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like trying to figure out like the arm overlapping cloth and how many different like shawl things he had on him.
Yeah, because it was that shoulder drape, and then like the waistband, and then the arms were kind of separate.
Right. And having all of the Matt Thorpe likes to call them twisty bits, but like all the different layers of clothing, because underneath on the legs it looks like the arms, and then there's another layer, and then the floating layer on the top. Yeah, it's like, and then that has to all tuck in underneath that belt, and then they have to key it, And it was pretty crazy. And then we had to. So Marvel was behind the the bases. So they really wanted all of the Marvel characters to be in some kind of environment.
Okay.
You know, it's like,
It's like
we
broken
can't
up ground or
right,
whatever that is. Yeah.
Right. And we liked it and we didn't. We liked it because it would kind of unify the universes. So it's like everybody from Avengers gets kind of the same kind of base in the same world. It didn't look the same, but it had like the same features and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was really cool. But we, as artists, as collectors, as sculptors, we wanted it to be super clean.
Yeah.
We almost wanted like a collector's version of these that are just gray with a simple base.
Right.
But
so they're all consistent,
right,
consistent
like
bases.
Right. Kind
like
of like
what
this.
you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. Because like if you have one that this is like specific to that, his sort of world. It's like, I don't know, that's him on like Maz's planet.
Right.
When he's on the, he like flares out and they like blow up the building.
Yep.
But then like you get another one that could be totally different, might be metal. And so like when those are sitting next to each other, there's sort of like an inconsistency in it.
Yeah.
Like I get that.
Yeah.
That's like a collector's mentality.
Right.
For sure.
But it also allowed us to introduce a lot of design into the bases. My friend Ian Jacobs that was on our team, he did a really, really cool, what is his name? The magician from...
Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange, thank you. So, Doctor Strange's symbol, that actually became his base. That really cool symbol.
That is pretty cool.
Which
fun to model.
Sadly never got released, but
That's too bad.
you could pull that up if you want. Just do Doctor Strange Infinity, because I gotta give a shout out to Ian.
Please do.
He's fantastic, and he did this really great Doctor Strange model, and this was like the pinnacle of our right before. Yeah, it's just.
Oh wow!
He got the likeness of him and just the flowing capes and all of that. But you can see the symbol on the base.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
That's such a great pose, man. Right. I love that pose. It's amazing.
Right.
No, he nailed it.
So it was, and then there were some premium figures that were supposed to come out as well. That got stopped right
at the end,
right when they were in manufacturing. Well, right about to go to manufacturing, man. All of the.
There's probably a lot of people out there that know about this that are upset.
And it's out. So if you do a search for Hulk Premium Infinity, I think it'll come up. So these were supposed to be like between 8 and 12
I've
inches
seen some
tall.
of these images, yeah.
So yeah, the second image there, that guy. I don't know if you can.
You said 3?
So 8 to 12 inches
8 to
tall.
12. Okay, that is fairly large though in comparison. Oh,
yeah, I think
that would have been so awesome.
You can zoom in on that. So I only posed this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He started as the regular Hulk that like Ian Jacobs and Brian Allen worked on.
Yeah.
So I did those rocks coming up and the lava and
that's really awesome.
All that and then re-sculpted some of his back and stuff like that and got that expression.
It's such a dynamic pose.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do that. And there was going to be Jack Skellington, Elsa from Frozen, and just like the big ones, Darth Vader, Lightning McQueen. There was like a whole lineup of premium figures that were going to be big.
I can imagine the deliberation on which ones are going to get like passed through for that. It's got to be so nuts.
Yep. Oh, Hulkbuster was another one.
Hulkbuster would have been awesome.
Yeah. Oh. So imagine these as bookends, like just giant bookends.
Man, Kyle at Pixologic would lose his mind.
Oh, there's Darth Vader, the big one. Yep, and Matt Thorpe did the Jack Skellington. Oh, and Buzz Lightyear, Brad Bolander. Brad Bolander. Yeah, Brad Bolander did Buzz. And so
cool.
Interestingly enough, with the smoke on Buzz Lightyear, so smoke is one of the hardest things to sculpt ever.
Yeah.
Without it making it look like popcorn or something like that. Yes.
To get that sort of puffy texture, but then the motion.
Right. And having it like start from somewhere and actually like have some motion to it and kind of have some life to it.
Yeah, you guys did a great job though.
Yeah, Brad really did it, nailed that one. But just to get motion coming out of his jetpack and then kind of culminating down there.
That's very cool.
So we also did that with Lightning McQueen, some smoke gathering around the wheel as it was like peeling out kind of a thing, had some smoke coming off of it.
Yeah.
So Chris Wright, Brad Bolander did the premium version of her in her spring dress, but Chris Wright was the original.
Okay.
He did the original one. Brad works at, you can click on that Peter Pan. So Jason Kim, the guy in that video, he modeled and
oh wow! So he was doing
Peter
concept
Pan.
and he was also sculpting and modeling.
Well, he wanted to learn modeling, and so I helped him come up and model this guy. I don't know where it's all backwards. So this was this was a D23 choice. Like they let a bunch of people say, if you had a figure, what would it be? And they all said Peter Pan.
Yeah, that's a classic iconic figure.
Yeah, Jason Kim worked on him.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just kind of showing you some that were not released.
Right.
I did the base to him and stuff, but he turned out amazing. I did Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
So that one turned out pretty good.
What is the base plate is like almost chrome.
It's so that's another story with Keyshot. So Keyshot, when we first did Disney Infinity 1.0, we didn't have Keyshot. We didn't have the Keyshot bridge. We didn't have any of that stuff. Yeah. And that's when Matt Thorpe and I did a presentation here for the ZBrush Summit that year.
I remember that.
Or I think it was the year after that for 2.0.
Yeah.
But before that, I think I talked about it during that presentation actually. But we had Maya, and we couldn't push our characters over from ZBrush into Maya and render them out for like this. We couldn't do a super nice beauty shot for marketing. Mm-hmm. So what we had to do was we had to just make this super crappy low poly version, UV it, rig it like really horribly, just enough to get the pose, and then render it in Maya. And then our concept team would have to paint out all of the problems and make it work. And they worked so much overtime to get those to look good. Yeah. And then Keyshot comes along. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, guys, Keyshot, this is amazing. Amazing. Watch this. Boop. Push one button and it goes over. And you know, even just out of the box, it just looks incredible. With poly paint, we don't need UVs. Right. And we could just drop that clear shader on just make it look like clear plastic. Right. And in Maya, it was extremely difficult.
That was a big deal for you guys. This is like, in comparison to the video that you're showing, you're doing prints before, and you're trying to get the visualization of that. I mean, sure, you're still going to need that to kind of check, like, if like things look right. Right. But was Keyshot and ZBrush and Keyshot able to offer another layer to that to kind of get previs?
So we would print out these big posters that we would send to the manufacturer, and they would kind of come with that. There's one more. Look up Jin Urso Infinity. That was my last.
That was your last
character.
Figure?
Well, I did two that didn't make it to print. I did Hera.
Oh, Hera's from
Clone Wars, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Clone Wars Hera.
I did.
It's JYN, and then ERSO.
The
Infinity.
Rogue One.
Yeah, I haven't rendered her out yet, and she's not out in public really. But I showed her. I showed her during. Yeah. So that top left one. Let's see. Oh yeah. So I showed her during one of my Pixologic live streams. I opened her model. No.
Oh, okay.
I opened her model and just kind of spun it around. Yeah. And then people took screenshots and then it's like
put it up.
Yeah, put it. So this is the character that Brian Allen made.
Oh, that's I never saw this one. That's really cool.
It never. So this it's all pixelated, but
that's the screenshot.
Yeah, that's the screenshot. So that was the last model that I worked on. Yeah,
that's such a good figure too. I loved Rogue One. I was a really big fan.
Yeah, they did a really great job.
Really great job.
So it was fun because I was happy with the likeness.
Yeah, the likeness is spot on.
Yeah,
that's a really. I mean, how do you? I'd love to talk about that a little bit. I mean, people can watch your live streams and they can watch you sort of work in this sense, but how do you methodically go about that, trying to capture likeness, but then strip this down into a simplified form?
So it's. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, but I feel like people's faces are like a safe that you have to crack, right? And it's you have to like go tick 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 click tick 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 click, you know. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, when you're trying to find a likeness, you get all the reference of that person from every kind of angle you can possibly find, and you're rotating them around, you're like, you start to notice unique features of that person, like how their cheekbones are and how their eye shapes are and how thick their eyebrows, whatever it is. You can start to just push and pull, and it's like tick, 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 tick.
Like you might pass that a little bit and like miss it a little bit and go back and adjust. Yeah.
And I tell my students, I'm like, if you ever seen the movie Hook with Robin Williams,
classic, yeah.
Right? There's a scene where there's this little kid, and he's like
putting his hands all over his face.
Yeah,
and
he's like, where are
Peter?
you?
Where are you?
And he pulls his face back. Yeah, there you are, Peter. It's that feeling when I'm trying to find a likeness.
No, that's
and you're pulling a cheek around you. Oh, there you are, Jen. Yeah, there you are.
There's
There's your chin. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, he squinches his face.
Right. Totally.
It's so great.
Totally. So
that's a great way to put it.
It's like you're trying to kind of find that character, and what it's crazy because when you're doing caricature, sometimes a caricature will look more like the person than the person looks like themselves, because sometimes you will find things about that person or that actor, actress is what it usually is, where it's so part of them, like I'm trying to think. Oh, sorry.
No,
I'm trying to think.
Okay, we're good so far.
Oh man, what's the Joker from the first Batman?
Heath Ledger?
No.
Are you talking about Jack Nicholson?
Jack Nicholson. Yeah. His eyebrows are such a part of him, and when he does that thing, and so it's like so iconic that people push his eyebrows clear past what John Nicholson could ever do. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of talking about.
Just accentuating those features to kind of just...
Yeah, right. And you try and push past and really focus on the things that are making that character. Yeah. And kind of, diminishing the things that don't.
Yeah.
Like if they have a weak chin or whatever, you kind of pull that back. And so it just depends on who the character is and what makes them look like that person. So when you're doing caricature, the hardest people to caricature are the most plain-faced people.
Right. If they don't have any defining features, like if everything's maybe just too symmetrical and too perfect, it's probably difficult to do.
Right.
I can completely understand that. Well, and that's what going back to looking at stylized characters versus say a photorealistic person or a creature. It's like that is there's a connection there too. It's like when you're trying to make a person look so photoreal. I mean, there are challenges in that sense too, where you have to get things so perfect. Like our eyes are we're staring at each other on a daily basis, so we will catch imperfections and somebody trying to do a likeness sculpt, right? Some people have figured out on that side of the fence how to get that right. And then there's always if there's just one thing off, it can be an amazing piece, but you'll notice it, right? And it's the same thing in a stylized character. Right. Yeah.
Right. This one is what I've done is I'm not after Disney shut down. I worked for a company called Cast AR for a while. That was an altered reality thing. It was kind of fun. That was kind of a startup. They ran out of funds, typical thing.
Yeah.
But this whole entire time, the last 2 years of that, I had done a couple of tutorials for Digital Tutors, which is now Pluralsight.
Yeah.
And people enjoyed the way I taught and things like that. So then I decided I'm going to take this bigger and make a big course. And I spent 2.5 years in my off time after hours putting it together.
Wow.
And this is the character that I teach people how to make this. So this is fan art of Kate Archer from No One Lives Forever in the Disney Infinity style.
Okay.
So my good friend and concept artist from Disney Interactive, his name is Josh Black. He helped me. That's his concept. So that's the concept he came up with.
Awesome piece.
And he was one of the concept artists from Disney Infinity. And anyway, Monolith tagged me on, because Monolith made the original game and stuff like that.
So they gave you a shout out for this?
That's awesome. Which is awesome.
That's really awesome. So this was the byproduct of that 2 years of just putting together this sort of course or program.
Right.
And this is the first one that you've kicked out.
Yeah. First and only. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say and only. It's funny because the character that got me the job at Avalanche a long time ago, the one, and you can pull this up too if you want. So do a search for Todd Harris, T-O-D, single D, Harris, Sirloin, S-I-R-L-O-I-N. Yeah, so
I can only.
Yeah, probably images. Okay, yeah, look at all the beef.
And it's just there we go.
The first one. The first one.
Oh, I've seen this image before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I when I first made him, I originally made him a 3D Studio Max with traditional polygon modeling.
Yeah.
And I tried to make it as close to that as possible, and I only made the bust of him, just the top.
Okay.
I've always wanted to finish him because he's one of my favorite.
You've never
characters.
actually gone back and finished him?
I've never gone back and finished him. So now, with all of this experience behind me, and ZBrush and all of this other stuff, I wanted to give my students a little bit more and explain the process as I'm doing it more. So every single week I do a student-only live stream, just like the Pixologic live stream, but it's behind my paywall, and the students can come by and watch me make this guy.
And this is all in the 3D character workshop.
Yeah, my 3D character workshop. So you can come by and watch me build this guy. He's built now. I'm about to take him into Substance Painter and do the texture work on him.
That's amazing. Everyone needs to check that out.
Yeah, I used nanomesh to do the chainmail.
Oh, I'm so about it. That's great.
It was, and it was a lot of fun. But I want to get him up on ZBrush Central pretty soon.
Oh, you gotta.
So with all the expressions and stuff.
So you've been doing these sort of like private sessions with students that come here. Is it available for people to sign up afterwards, or is it something that you're doing just live right now?
So how, I don't know how much you want. I can pitch it or whatever.
Pitch it for anybody who everybody's not aware. People that watch this later, I want people to know.
Okay. Basically, it's a lifetime access workshop. I wanted to make it kind of based off how Pixologic has ran their business, where you buy it once, all updates are free. I've had a copy of ZBrush since version 2 or something like that, and have not had to pay for an update yet. Fingers crossed, right? So and I, as a consumer, I love it. Thank you, Pixologic, right? So I want that same feeling for my students. It's like you buy it once, lifetime access, and you get access to all the stuff I've made for the first 2 years. And I've had it out for 2.5 years now of a whole ton of content, 2 more years of content, and I just do this full time now. So I also do live Q&A sessions every Friday, and my students can come by and ask questions, and I review models, and we talk about portfolios and how to get into the industry, and also any questions they have.
That's a really amazing resource. Yeah, and I think that's a testament to just the following that you do have and the people that you're able to educate and share that knowledge is really great. It's
it's been amazing. Like I said, Disney Interactive was my 6th studio. The game industry is a harsh. A harsh mistress or whatever you call it, right?
It's a beast. It's a Wild West.
Yeah, and it's like a rock star industry is what I call it. If you're not making the hits, you're playing in the bars, like Louis would say.
Yes.
So it's hard when the project ends, even in film or television, whatever it is in this industry. It's an entertainment industry, so you have to be prepared to have to move or go where the work is, or at least freelance, and you're going to have to be searching for those jobs, right? Well, it was tough. So I'm just like, okay, what can I do to give me kind of a safety net, so when those projects end, I'm not left in the wind, So I'm like, okay, I'll make, since these tutorials went pretty good and people enjoyed them, I'll go bigger with this, and I can just have some passive income on the side that'll help me when times are low, you know. And I launched it and I hyped it out, and I sold a ton on launch, and I actually ended up making more than my salary at Disney. And so I'm just like, I guess I'm doing this now.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. And,
why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. And it was just so fulfilling, and so you're just showing the student work there.
Yeah. That's got to be a big part too. Just all the experience that you've gathered and being able to share that, and then get the sort of result from showing that to someone, and they're kicking that out. That's got to be amazing in itself.
It's incredible. Like,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that so much.
So,
I really do.
yeah,
I really do. That's great. That's really great.
But I have over 1,000 students now.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
What?
You get to touch these people's lives and actually share something that they love and appreciate. And to be honest, I mean, that helps perpetuate this whole thing. And
Right.
we're all, that's a big part of the summit, is actually being able to share that. And a lot of people that are tuning in that don't get to come to the summit, LA is a very, it's a big sort of hub, but a lot of people out there are not here and don't get a chance to come here. And streaming this stuff out, it's like at the very least we get to share that stuff with people. And we want people to be able to make this stuff too. You know, we don't want it to be this like circle where you have to go to school to get a full degree to figure out how to get to this path. Like you can get introduced to this so much easier now through programs like yours, ZBrush Live, stuff like this. I mean, we put all our stuff up for free for that reason.
It's amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing what you guys do too. And it's super nice because I have students from all around the world from every nook and cranny, anywhere, and it's so incredible to me that, like you said, people can get an education. Education's changing.
It is. Absolutely.
And if you can learn from somebody who's been there and done that and knows what it's like, because when you go to a university or something like that, you're not always going to get a professor that has been in the industry. They're going to be like,
that are going to give you the real information that you need to know, the pitfalls and all the things that you should be watching out for, and make it hard on you sometimes too. It's like you have to be prepared for all those things.
Right. So, and I think the most rewarding part of this whole thing is now they're starting to get jobs in the industry, my students.
That's amazing.
It's just like, holy, you could do that from just what I've taught. And it's just awesome.
Yeah, it's a really great industry. I'm happy to see that you're having such success doing this.
Thank you so much.
And I just assume that 3D Character Workshop is going to continue to grow into so much more. I'm sure you got plenty of ideas now.
Yeah. I'm actually introducing, I've just started to drip out a stylized anatomy module. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, everybody's been wanting it. So it's like I'm teaching, and I've always been kind of, I haven't wanted to do it because I'm not the best when it comes to anatomy knowledge. I'm not like a Scott Eaton or something like that. But
or Andrew Cause
right. But I know what I know, and I know, I hope I know what kind of looks good, and tips and tricks about the silhouettes and what to look for and how structure works and how to stylize that. I was talking about the caricatures. How to, where to stylize anatomy, where to exaggerate or where to push it, where not to, and and like just straights and curves and where to put them and all that kind of stuff.
I think artists. I mean, we were sitting with Raphael Grassetti. I mean, even the best artists like you guys will. You might have things where you don't feel like you're the best, or you might not want to share it, but it's very clear you have a deep understanding of these things, even if you can't describe it in a scientific way. There's value to it, and it definitely shows through your work.
Thanks so much. I've done 5 lessons so far, and every single one of them, my students are like, yes, more. So I know it's working, and people are loving it.
Amazing.
So, and what's unique about that is I get to see where the students are struggling. So I can say, okay, I can see that you're missing this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this into these new lessons. So you make sure,
restructure.
So you make sure you're getting it.
Yeah, and that's a good educator, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a real education. Is like not just one specific. Here's your textbook that you're going to use forever, and it's always this, and we might change a few words here and there. It's like you might need to do a whole restructure because people just aren't grasping it. And numbers tell you that, and for in this case, I mean, images tell you that, right? Like the final output. If they're getting jobs and they're putting up really awesome work, something's got to be working. Right. There's something that's magic in there for sure. Yeah.
It's really interesting to see what students miss as well, and just things that you never really think about until you're in it and you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you very first learn like perspective, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you got to get past icons, like if you're going to be drawing just a cylinder, everybody knows that a cylinder is tall on the sides and it has a circle on the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
So you like draw a circle. It's like that doesn't work in perspective.
I can't do that. I got to angle this a little bit.
You got to turn it. Yeah.
But you're right. Like those are foundational things that I'm sure that's a little bit of a challenge. But it's funny how that stuff works with art. I think especially in 3D where it's sort of, I feel like if you're going to teach somebody how to sculpt and model this way, and you don't teach them any two-dimensional foundational things, I'd be interested to see how that works with a young person. I'm sure you're going to get some people that still get it, and some people that don't, and do need a more like simplified way to break it down.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do absolutely break it down to its minimal, because it's towards the end of Infinity 3.0. I had always modeled I'm a traditional, not traditional clay, but traditional digital modeler.
Right.
With pushing points and stuff like that.
Extrusions, polygons.
Right.
Yeah.
You start with a box and you extrude until you have a character, right?
Yep.
So you're always connected. All your pieces and parts are connected.
Yeah.
And towards the end of Infinity, I'm just like, wait a minute, they don't have to be connected. I can build this out of primitive parts. Like, and I've told this before, but when I was an animator, I used to study Preston Blair. Preston Blair was an old 2D animator that would animate on like Tom and Jerry and the old Disney cartoons and stuff like that. So I would learn like timing and stuff from these. They had these big, thin format books.
Yeah.
You might look at Preston Blair just to see these things, if you could. So he also had this How to Draw Characters books, and all these
breaking it down to just simplified pieces of geometry.
Yeah, that one or the one next to it.
Where you get a lot of circles.
Yeah, that one. There you go.
Yeah.
So you can see these birds are made of primitive objects, right?
Right.
So they're all just broken down to simple spheres and cylinders. And I'm like, why couldn't I do that in ZBrush? I can, and I'm going to, and I did, and it was like,
and it changes
Eureka
everything.
moment.
I can completely understand that.
Yeah, so I would literally build all these spheres, the characters in parts to get these characters, and I could get all my volumes, and it would keep me out of the details because you don't want to rush to details right away, and so it would just keep you away from that, and it would help you like visualize the simple forms, and I haven't looked back.
That's so awesome.
This is how I teach.
It's funny. I can completely understand that, going through that process myself, especially when you go through production sort of training. Yeah, you're starting from a solid sort of figure. If you're doing like a person, you'd get a solid base mesh that's blocked out in polygons, and then you go subdivide and you sculpt on it. But in this sense, when you're designing from scratch and you're making something new, it's really tough to get to the full form when you got this whole empty canvas of a body to modify, right? And like you can go through and you can inflate that, but then you're touching other stuff, and like masking works. But in this sense, like you are one of the like few people that I've seen sort of pioneer that sort of breakup of primitive shapes, and I've seen other people do it, like Danny Williams and a few
Michael
other people, like DeFeo and
Dylan Ekran,
and all the people that come from that traditional animation sort of style that really were coming up early in 3D, sort of pioneered that, and it really has only seemed to have taken in the last like 5 or 6 years, maybe 10 years, where now you're pushing this so much where people are going, oh my gosh, like why wouldn't I do it this way?
Right.
And you have Dynamesh now and things where you can just work on separate parts and then just weld that stuff together, and boom, you got your thing, and now you just polish it up.
Right.
You know, it's just it's like, oh, duh, why didn't I know this forever ago?
Right.
Which I get it.
Which kind of leads to the mannequins.
Yes.
In
the ZeeZoo?
The ZeeZoo. Yep.
The Steve ZeeZoo team.
Right. So, which is another way of doing this kind of primitive blockout with a few more restraints, but a quicker base to work from. You know. And it's funny because when the mannequins were first released, I thought they were made in-house only, and you couldn't make them as a user.
Oh.
And everybody I've talked to feels the same way.
No way.
Everybody thinks that Pixologic made those mannequins, and that's all you get.
And you just use that one mannequin.
You just use that one mannequin. You're stuck with it. So when Pixologic reached out to me and said, could you make some more mannequins? I'm like, you can make mannequins? How do you do this? And
well, that's a good moment for us. I mean, the fact that you're a part of that and creating as many as you did already that are amazing.
Oh, thanks.
And people are going to go nuts for those. But that's a good thing for us to push as well, is to be able to design and make your own. I think that's a big part of this too, is working with you, and we'll probably be able to work with more people to create a bigger library and actually push that as a way to just. It's a very, one thing I do love about it is what you get with mannequins that you might not get with primitives is, with Gizmo, you can use the transpose all to rotate and pose objects together, or the transpose master plugin. But with mannequins, it's connected, it's all rigged up, and you can pose and move things very quickly and easy, which is
very
nice
fast.
to just kind of like work in more sort of a realistic sort of posing, sort of method.
And I also didn't realize that there was kind of sort of an IK system built in, where when you're posing, even though there's not an IK system and a handle, but when you move those things to start to pose them, you're not posing them in FK, where it's like FK just means you start from the shoulder and you go like this, and then like this, and then like this. But
they flow.
In here, you could grab the wrist and it will all move in a natural way. And it's just so
And that's
much
what I mean, is
faster.
understanding those. That's one thing that ZBrush have been around for so long, and I think with the transition of Dynamesh and some of the other tools, and Transpose Master gives you a lot. And if you're going for production, you send it off to a rigger anyways. But I think there is it's maybe a forgotten art, is that ZSpheres are very intuitive, and you do have those connecting chains, and knowing how to manipulate those, and knowing when to use move and when to use rotate, are very different things, like similar and very different at the same time. But there is plenty of room for creative adjustments in that space, for sure.
Yeah, it was really eye opening and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was
Well, we thank you so much for the ones that you have contributed so far. Yeah, we're glad to show that off last night.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I know as we're winding down here, is there anything that for 3D character workshops, anything that you wanted to talk about for things that are on the horizon, or?
So yeah, I do a couple more things. So since it's lifetime access, there's no deadlines. Like other workshops have deadlines. Like you have from here till here, and to make a character, and then you're done. I don't have traditional quarters or whatever they're called. So it's just lifetime. So instead, to come up with how to change that, or how to introduce something that works with a deadline, is these student challenges. And with these student challenges, I'll usually give the students a topic, like, Christmas, or, just Halloween or something, or like a specific concept artist like Randy Bishop or Sean Galloway or somebody like that. And then I'll just say, model anything that like Creature Box has made. And if you can go up to the podcast, the very top of the screen before. Right there, the blog, sorry. There you go. So we did one for May, that was Mermay, that was based off of
Awesome.
Tom Bancroft's stuff.
That's fantastic.
So the student challenges have been really nice, because it helps them in two ways. It'll give the students a deadline, a reason to model something, and then it will also, I bring in industry professional people to judge these things.
Oh, that's amazing.
So all of a sudden you're networking.
Yes,
right?
That's huge.
And it's industry pros that will get to see your work.
Yeah.
And maybe later on down the line, you'll be applying for a job, and this person happens to be working there, and they'll remember your work and remember you, and you're like, oh, I saw your stuff in the student challenge.
Absolutely.
And blah, blah, blah.
That is a huge thing, and that's a skill too. That's the ability to actually communicate is a big part too.
Right.
If you're going to go into the workforce, you need to be able to show your stuff off, take criticism, all of that becomes a part of the sort of educational process.
Right. Yeah, it's super fun. And if you go to the Creature Box one, click on that guy. So this was one of my favorite ones with Greg and Dave from Creature Box.
Those are rad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're so. If you scroll down, you'll see them all. So this is Dave, and this is Greg from Creature Box.
Yeah.
And then just
sweet.
And all ZBrush, and just what I really like about these two is it gives people to kind of flex their creative muscles and come up with different ways to present their work, like this.
That's
really super
awesome.
Graphic. I don't teach everybody everything. I'm just a cog in their learning system, and give them a reason to.
You're basically allowing them to sort of come up with their own sort of creative design style.
Right. Yeah. So it's like I really help them get past the walls. Yeah. That can I do this or can I not? And once they can get past it, and they're just like, oh yeah, I can model, and then they just starts that whole waterfall of all this stuff.
That's so incredible, man. This is so great.
So cool
I've seen a lot of this stuff, but I have not seen these ones. These ones are really, really good.
And so Greg and Dave, they were kind enough to give feedback on all of these. They took the time to give every student like some little blurb about what they thought about it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
And I do occasionally, it depends on the contest and how much time I have at the time, but as a reward, I give one-on-one coaching. So they can like just one-on-one ask me whatever.
That's a
they
great
want,
bonus. So what do they have to do to receive that?
Just to win the student challenges.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've made a lot of friends through the process, and a
That's
lot of them
great.
are here at the summit.
Nice.
It's so crazy. It's like, I'm your student, I'm your
Yeah.
student. It's like, oh my gosh, and yeah.
I mean, at
it's
some
super
point,
cool.
with this network of amazing designers now that you're building, almost it's like you could almost create a whole universe if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could almost turn this into a team that could make something like a story-driven sort of idea.
Right.
Like turn this into a animated film.
Right. Yeah. It's it. Yeah. I honestly, I didn't know how big this would become or how nice it would be. You can click into that one too, the Halloween challenge. So yeah, my friend Ryan Peterson, he makes those big life-size
Those are
busts.
so sweet.
And of course, we all know
Fantastic Joe
Yeah,
Mena.
Joe Mena.
We love Joe so much.
Yep. And
David
this
Igo.
guy, Dave Igo.
David Igo still got my
Yeah.
sunglasses.
Does he?
Yep, he's had them for like 6 years.
So those were the three judges for. So for this one, it was make a collectible
Yeah.
that you would possibly see in like Hallmark or something.
Yeah.
For a Halloween, it's like a Halloween collectible. So it had to have a base. It had to be
Such a great
printable.
idea.
That kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
and then you can see they all kind of comment.
He's got water on his foot.
So this was great because Caitlin's fantastic. So she made this one and the Gizmo and what's the green gremlin guy?
I forget his name. The bad guy. The
Yeah,
bad one?
he's got a squirt gun.
Yeah, he's got a squirt gun. That's so great.
Yeah,
So he
and-
squirted his shot.
Right.
Great storytelling.
And it's the filmmakers saw that and they were like giving her kudos and stuff.
That's so cool,
from
man.
from the original Gremlins.
That's
and stuff.
amazing.
Yeah, I love this guy's style. So that is all poly paint.
Oh, it's got
That is
such a
all
great
poly
like
paint.
2D cell shade kind of feel
Yes.
to it. I like that.
I cannot wait to tell Marcus about what you showed.
Oh
Wow.
man,
Yeah.
like honestly, the adjust
Yeah.
color is
Yep.
doing that on polypaint has been so much fun. Let me tell you,
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
are gonna love it.
I can't wait. So I think, can you scroll? I got to make sure that's Marcus. Right. One more. Yes,
Yeah,
Marcus Hartel.
Hartel.
I got to give him a shout out.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's done so many characters, and he just
he likes
they're
to like. So he's usually
super graphical.
I
Yeah,
love that. That's actually
yeah.
a really creative way to use ZBrush, where you can still subdivide up and not have all those details and just paint on top. That's very
it's
cool.
really nice.
Very
Really
great
nice.
idea.
So,
Well,
anyway,
these
yeah,
guys
I love
are
it.
kicking out amazing work. You're doing you're doing a great thing for all these people. It's
Thank you
really
so much.
great.
Yeah,
It
it's
seems
been
like
a-
it's very rewarding for you, for
Oh
sure.
my goodness, yeah. You could ask me 2.5 years ago, and it'd be like, "No,
Yeah.
you're full of crap."
Like, I know. Like, how could you ever expect it?
Yeah, yeah. And I, for the most part, I've just kind of gone with the flow and just kind of come up with new ideas. And
Yeah.
and then it's funny because every time Pixologic updates ZBrush,
Yeah.
then I have to go make new lessons, which is great.
Right.
Like on
It's
this.
a perpetual sort of growing thing.
Yeah.
Which makes it
So-
necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
So not only is there all the stuff from the live streams and the Q&A stuff that I do that all the students can watch back, but I also do updated lessons themselves when new things come out like
That's
this.
great.
Yeah, like the polypaint stuff.
That's great, because people need to be able to see that. I mean, we can only show so much in a tech demo, it's like just to show
Yep.
off the features, and we at Z Classroom's there, and we do hashtag ZBrush, but we're never going to be able to do what you guys do, and what you're doing is like giving the real sort of training, the walkthroughs of all that stuff. Right?
It's really fun to say, okay, how can you use this new tool in a stylized character pipeline?
Yeah.
Actually, when I first launched the course, my pipeline was do primitive objects, then Dynamesh them together, and then go to town on the
Right.
surfacing stuff.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is you can still get into the details too soon with Dynamesh, right? It's like
Yeah.
I want you to stay away from the details as long as
easy to
possible.
remesh it?
So now it goes primitive objects and then remesh. I do this during the live stream.
Yep.
So remesh by union
Yep.
in the new gizmo.
Yep.
And so that stitches them together, and then Z remesh that And then I just keep it there
Yep.
with the dynamic subdivisions for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Until I run out of geometry, essentially.
I think that's really smart.
And then I'll either go to the Sculptress Pro or I'll go to Dynamesh from there.
Yeah.
And then, that way I can still work on my volume, still get everything done.
That's a really good point, because you can still go ahead of yourself when you get into that Dynamesh phase. Once it's there, it's like, oh, but now I can go in and just scribble into this. Like,
That's
I have
the
this
fun
surface.
part.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like a drug almost, where you go, oh, like, okay, I'm in. It's like, wait, whoa, pump the brakes, kid.
Which is funny too, because you can see like the students that have let that drug take them over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the whole you can't make your base stuff look good just simply by detailing it out.
Totally. It's a pitfall that we all go through at some point. We just do. We're going to hit
Yeah.
that wall whether you like it or not. But
Yep,
it's like, I
absolutely.
feel like the sooner you learn that, the better. And you can try and, it's like, I don't have kids, but I imagine raising kids would be the same. It's like, don't stick your hand in that light socket, but they're going to do it.
Gonna do it anyway. Don't jump off the couch. What do you mean? Crack.
Exactly.
Well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad we're lucky to have you on the ZBrush Live team as well. Just
Thanks.
having you do your streams and everything. But I'd love to see getting a clear insight on 3D Character Workshop is very cool.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk about that.
Our pleasure. We're lucky to have you on. Truly. Well, thanks so much, Shane. I
All right.
appreciate everything.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Cheers.